joining us now on our college basketball preview show. His first appearance on this particular show, we got to know him when he was here at Loyola the first time, and then, of course, he was the head coach at Johns Hopkins for years, and now he is the head coach at Loyola. He is Coach Josh Loeffler, and he is with us this morning here on the college basketball preview show. Coach, it's Glenn and Patrick. It's good to see you. Thank you for taking the time for us.
Thanks for having me on, guys. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. Coach, I wonder, since you and I talked in the spring, you know this place well, obviously. Is there anything already that you say, you know what, this is still something that I didn't know just about being the head coach at Loyola that you've learned even before you've coached an actual game?
I don't know. I mean, I feel like everybody in their first year is learning so much every day. It's hard to even keep track, you come into these situations with sometimes with a base of knowledge because, you work as an assistant somewhere like I did at Loyola. But things evolve over time. So what was done when I was there as an assistant has changed a little bit. So there's just minor tweaks and things like that. But I will say that the real nice thing that we feel like we find out a little bit every day is we have a good group of young men. Like we have 16 guys who, in general, they're very easy to work with every day. They come in eager, they work hard, and our issues, most college coaches would dream to have issues that are ours. We have not had many days where we're pulling our hair out because of any kind of stuff that's going on off the floor with our guys. So it's just really nice. I think they've done a really good job in the whole school and athletic department of recruiting and retaining really good people.
On the point of retention, the fact is that you didn't have to go out and completely overhaul the roster this offseason. How much do you feel like that will help you in the long run, even if this is a group that collectively did struggle a bit last season?
Yeah, I think college basketball right now is so transient, right? That we've seen over the past couple of years. That rosters that are able to have continuity and programs that are able to have continuity sometimes overachieve from what people expect out of them before the season. And a lot of that is because the student athletes are comfortable. They're in an environment where they feel like they can improve and they don't have to figure things out consistently every day. So hopefully the continuity and the ability to retain players will allow us to improve at a pretty rapid pace and allow guys to get better because they also have a good chemistry with each other. And that's, I mean, we've seen that over the years since the portal has become a thing, that teams that can retain people sometimes surprise the public in their performance. And that's the hope for any team that brings back a solid group of their roster from the previous year.
I know when we talked for Blue Ribbon Yearbook back in July, I think the one obvious thing to discuss was, you have got 4 guys 6'7" or taller on the entire roster, and that size is, maybe not the greatest asset that you guys have in year one, but at the same time, you knew it going in. So how much, is it kind of built in stylistically for year one that you guys have kind of figured out kind of workarounds, or at least hopeful or attempted workarounds as you head into this regular season?
Well, unfortunately in basketball, there's not that many workarounds for not being tall, So, we obviously are going to try and play to our strengths and make sure that we're utilizing our student athletes' abilities, right? We're not going to try to fit a square peg into a round hole, but we are also, constantly discussing what we have to do as a unit to address and overcome some of the obstacles that come with not having incredible size across the board. And, there's no secret that winning basketball generally comes down to contesting shots and rebounding and getting loose balls. So, the boring stuff like that will have to be, done as a group. And maybe we won't have 3 of the top rebounders in our league, but maybe we can, as a group, together rebound the basketball at a high level. And in doing so, negate some of those height disadvantages that people look at on paper.
He is Coach Josh Loeffler from Loyola. He's with us here on our college basketball preview show. Coach, I wonder, Chris Kazemka looked like someone going into last year that was maybe going to be ready to take a step forward, and I know you weren't here for that, but the injury and now getting him back, do you feel like that's someone that could prove to be a bit of an alpha, more of a leader type for this team this season?
Well, he's definitely a leader. You know, I think the tough thing when you have a new coach is that even if you're a senior and even if you are a guy with great leadership characteristics like Chris, you're still learning on the job. So, there's still a level for every guy in our program of trying to figure out exactly what to do daily, because so much of this is just, even if it's slightly different than the previous coaching staff, it's different. So they're thinking a lot. But Chris is a leader, you know, even if he doesn't talk, which he's a great communicator, but even if he didn't talk, Chris is a good leader because his work ethic, his toughness, and his desire to do whatever the team needs is at a high level. So, he's a great leader by example. And then on top of that, he has great passion and he really cares about Loyola. And more than anything, he just wants to win basketball games. So, yeah, I think he'll be a leader for us. I think he already has been, and I'm really excited that he is here and can fulfill that role.
Josh, wanted to delve into a handful of guards that have had their moments at times over the last year or two for Loyola. Tyson Commander, Jordan Stemke, David Brown III, and how each of them has sort of sorted out their role to this point, and what sort of impact you can see from those guys this season.
Yeah, again, not to kind of be evasive, but the sorting out is still going on, right? Like I think as a roster, when you look at our team, there is a little bit of a jumble in the middle to see who will, separate themselves and get the majority of minutes. And I don't think that's really sorted yet. So, I think daily we are competing. We're competing together. But the reality of college basketball is everybody wants to play, and our guys are competing to prove that they should be on the floor because they can help win college basketball games. And I think those three, are all different. Dave Brown, senior, he is, a really tough and gritty kid, but he has incredible energy and enthusiasm, and a lot like what I was just talking about with Chris. He's a good leader, really vocal, and just wants to do whatever he has to do to help win. Tyson is very poised, calm, cool, collected, and yet I think he has competed at a pretty high level every day, which is something that we were really looking for from him. And he brings some intangibles to the game that are really valuable. And then, Jordan really came on strong at the end of his freshman year. He can make shots at a high clip, but he also plays really hard and physically can impact the game by, attacking the rim and rebounding the ball. He's a very athletic and strong kid. So, as a young man, we're hoping that he can be more than just, what some people look at him as a really good 3-point shooter, because I think he's pretty versatile.
Coach, Loyola has had their moments since joining the Patriot League. There was a trip to a championship game just a couple of years ago. Obviously, some very good players, but it's been a struggle for the program to sustain any amount of sense since joining the league, or any amount of success, that is. Do you have a sense for what this takes from your time here, from what you know at institutions where grades matter, right? Where you have to do those types of things. Do you have a sense for what it's going to take to get this to a place where success can be sustained in the Patriot League at Loyola?
I'd like to think I have an idea. I mean, I'm sure. I don't know if there's ever been a new coaching hire who was like, nope, no clue.
Yeah,
Sorry.
Yeah, sure. I get that.
Can't believe they hired me. I'd like to think I do. The reality of, if you look across the landscape of college sports, changing leagues is really, really tough. Changing leagues is really, really tough. And that's, if you're going from the Pac-12 to the Big Ten in football, if you're going from the MAC to the Patriot League in basketball, changing leagues is difficult. And what Loyola had was not just changing leagues, but changing leagues to a very different standard academically,
right,
while changing head coaches and losing a recruiting class in the midst of all of that. So that initial move to the Patriot League was a huge sea change for Loyola. And I don't think people remember, just how much of a different atmosphere things became because of all of those moving parts. And, I think as a program, you work on those things. And then, obviously there's another coaching change. There's a pandemic. You have a player leave as after his sophomore year to become a first-round draft pick, which is unbelievable and incredible for the school and Santi Aldama. But it's hard to just replace a player like that. So, I think there's been a lot of, change within the period going into the Patriot League and after entering the Patriot League in many, many different ways. So I think it's going to be really just building every day on the really stuff, the boring stuff, habits and trying to have sustained improvement of those habits every day so that you can have sustained success over time.
Josh, you guys are one of the handful of teams nationally not in an MTE this year. There's not too many of them, and I'm curious from your scheduling philosophy for this season, how much intent there was on that front, and just in general, kind of your approach to A, how did you fill out the schedule, and B, how much of it was filled out for you when you first got there?
Yes, a decent amount was filled out before we got here. I wouldn't say the whole thing. We had to fill some games. But having been around and seen MTEs, I think they're really valuable if they fit your schedule and they make sense for the group that year. The way our schedule shook out and with the different moving parts, we really just didn't find one that made sense, and, at the end of the year, you look back sometimes and you think like, why did we do that? And there were a couple that came across our table that we explored, and they just didn't really fit the needs of what we needed as a program. Some of these MTEs, you're going to travel, for a day, and then you play 3 days in a row, and then you travel again, and now you got to jump right into league play. And it's like, well, does that really set us up to do well in the Patriot League and that sort of thing? So I think you have to look at it really holistically as you're approaching these MTEs to make sure that you're not, hey, maybe you win a game in an MTE, you win 2, you lose 1, but were the wins Pyrrhic victories because now you actually are a little banged up from playing 3 games in 3 days and you're going into league play. Like, you got to address things. Loyola has been a program that has had some success in MTEs, but, we just didn't find one that fit what we needed this year, and we weren't going to shoehorn one in an attempt to just say we did it if we felt like it wasn't going to set us up for our ultimate goal, which is to be the best at the end of the season in the Patriot League. That's what every team in our league is trying to do, play their best basketball in league play as we get into the conference tournament.
Could you reference Santi a minute ago? I wonder, I don't know, if you had a relationship with Pat or if you were involved with recruiting Cam, but I know that a lot's been made about, like, there's never been a moment like this for Loyola basketball where all of a sudden there's 3 former Loyola athletes that are all on NBA rosters to start a season. What's your relationship like with those guys, and how do you use that to, your advantage and the foundation that you're trying to lay now at Loyola?
I wish I had a relationship coaching Pat when he was
that would have been nice, right?
But Pat was pretty valuable to Charlie Toomey. So I think the idea of maybe him walking onto basketball got nixed after he took them to the Final Four as a freshman. He was still around the gym a lot, which was actually even more frustrating to see this dude doing windmill dunks after he just took his cleats off. So Pat's a great guy. Met him when he was at BL a little bit. He really loves hoops, as you can imagine for an NBA player, but has always loved hoops. Wasn't around for Cam. Obviously a tremendous success story, and both of them, the Spencer family, are really a great example of just incredible self-belief and working and overcoming, what a lot of people would have said, like, well, that'll never happen for you. Like, those two have been doubted a lot, and they've proven a lot of people wrong. And I think just to reach where they have right now, and I don't think they've reached as far as they will, but I think it's an incredible success story, and I think the people who helped them along the way deserve a lot of credit. And then Santi, I've talked to him a little bit since I got the job. You could not ask for a nicer person who cares deeply about Loyola, values his education, wants to get his degree, met his fiance while he was at Loyola. In short, it's really, really cool. We obviously are going to make sure that people know that these guys are on NBA rosters and where they came from. But we're also trying to make sure that, we're attracting people to Loyola who want to play for basketball for as long as they can, but know how hard it's going to be, because it's not like any of those guys just came in as surefire things. I think the work ethic and the improvement of those players while they were here, Cam and Santi especially, how much they improved over time is something to really be celebrated. They've done a great job, and they keep getting better and better every year.
No question about that. And Wild ends up working out with them both in the same place. It is just a crazy, crazy thing. All right, the season gets underway Monday night against Columbia. They are at home on Monday night, Loyola, for your first opportunity to see the Greyhounds and Coach Loeffler's debut there. And then after that, next Saturday against Lancaster Bible as well over at Reitz Arena. Coach, looking forward to seeing you out there this season. Appreciate you taking the time for us this morning. Let's talk again real soon, all right?
Sounds great.
It's Coach Josh Loeffler from Loyola with us here on our college basketball preview show.